Joined now by former Vancouver Canucks defenseman, TSN hockey analyst. Happy 30th birthday, Frank Corrado.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yes. Thank you very much.
How were the festivities? What was it, Sunday?
Yeah, it was Sunday. It was good, hang out with the family. Actually worked that night too, so it was nice.
Speaking of working, do you have this? Do you have designs on replacing John Garrett here as Canucks color analyst? What do you think?
Your name has come up a lot.
Absolutely, it sure has.
I know. You know what? First of all, let's start with this. Cheech is such a legend, and he's so good. I absolutely love listening to him to call games. He will be very much missed. Loved seeing him on the plane, always kind of looking to see what's Cheech got cooking over there on his plate. Because I know he's into the snacks, and he's always got a lot of ketchup. Whoever gets that job or that opportunity will have huge shoes to fill, and it'll be interesting to see how that kind of transaction goes down, because John Garrett is beloved by so many fans, and through the ups and downs that this organization has seen, it's been so impressive to see how he has remained such a beloved figure in the eyes of Canucks fans. And you think about, when a team is really good, it's easy to talk about how everyone's great. It's easy. It's right there in front of you.
It's a great point.
But when a team is bad and struggling, for him to still be able to find the good in a lot of players on that team and a lot of situations that this team has been through, especially over the last, you want to call it 9-10 years, it's so impressive. And I mean, if you take a temperature of sports media from time to time, you'll see certain names circulating online, trending on Twitter. You almost don't want to go see what people are saying, because those are our colleagues. Those are people, right? Yeah. You never see John Garrett. I think that just kind of speaks to how good he is at what he does, and such a lovable character he is.
You bring up a really, really good point that we have not brought up in this in the postmortem here of Garrett's announcement, in that the comparable would be Tom Marshall retiring back in 2010, and Dave Tomlinson took over. And I was about to say, hey, big shoes to fill, but Dave Tomlinson did it pretty seamlessly, and the blowback was very minimal. But you bring up a really good point. It was the best team in the league. So everybody's riding this tidal wave of positivity. Dave doesn't have to be too critical of the team, because they're winning the President's Trophy the first year that he's there. It was ready made for a new guy to take over. Next year, they're going to be an 85 to 95 point team.
Yeah.
There's going to be faults that need to be pointed out, and that new guy might get criticized for being critical if he's critical when they need to be criticized, and Dave didn't have to do that.
It's interesting, learning the business, right? It's a regional broadcast, right? So you also have to remember that there's a relationship between the broadcaster and the team. So as much as you can point things out and say, this is where the fault was on that goal and all that kind of stuff, there still needs to be a level of, you're traveling with the team, you're on the plane, you got to look these guys in the eye every single day. So just the way he was able to balance that was exceptional. And, I'll miss the banter between Shorty and Cheech on the broadcast too. I think that's an underrated element of a lot of broadcasts, where maybe, us as broadcasters or certain individuals just want to get so focused on the game itself, and we forget there's still an entertainment value to this. Someone's sitting down after a hard day of work where, they had to commute an hour and a half in the morning, an hour at night, and they just want to go home. They want to eat, open a beer, and be entertained for 3 hours. And the broadcasters have a lot to do with that. And Shorty and Cheech were one of the best duos in the league for sure.
You'll notice it was a non-answer answer, Blake Price. Very good there. Work from Senator Corrado.
Yes. Let's just say it would be very, very difficult to follow him up in that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of task yet.
You bring up a great point, Frankie, and we had a little bout with it last week when we asked you about Jordan Binnington, not knowing he was your boy from way back in minor hockey. How are you dealing with having to talk about and sometimes criticize friends and former teammates?
We had quite the talk about Binnington on Overdrive the one day. And listen, I go about it this way. whatever I'm going to say on the air, I would probably say to your face. So I think that's a good threshold to have. And I think I had that kind of mentality when it came to being a player and what people would say in the media. Because think about it, you got to be in the dressing room after practice, after morning skate, after games. And it's great if you want to write a piece about how bad someone is or call them out on their character and that kind of stuff. But just remember, like, if you're going to go that route, you're going to make it personal, you still have to look this guy in the eyes. And there was a lot of media members that really understood that in Vancouver, in Toronto. I know they're hard markets for players, but I always felt like, especially with my coverage, and there's been examples in the past where members have crossed the line, and that's been well documented in both markets. But for me, anyways, it was like I got criticized based on, if I had a bad pass up the middle of the ice, that's for everyone to see. And for someone to take note of that, that's wide out there in the open. So it is interesting, though, because you do need to have an opinion. You need to have a take, and you need to kind of try and find the way where you can get that across without really bringing into question someone's things that we may not know, if it's the character or the person behind it, right? Like, hey, what we see on the ice is what we know. That's what we can talk about.
Parenting, we call it the sandwich too, right? You can always go with the sandwich. He's a great skater. He can get there in a different way. He doesn't need to make that decision. That's a bad pass there, but love his skating, and I'm gonna look for him to make a different choice in the future.
Yeah.
Compliment, slag, compliment. It's a sandwich.
I like that. And actually, Ray Ferraro gave me a little advice before I started doing color. This would have been last year when I was starting out, and I thought it was great advice. He goes, for every time there's a mistake on the ice that you can call out, there's also someone who made a really good play, and you can probably focus on that. Right. And going back to Cheech and Shorty, like, any chance you have an opportunity for him where the Canucks score a goal, if it's, Quinn Hughes from the point or it's Pettersson, flying in off the wing, it's like, that's your opportunity to really make your mark as far as a regional broadcaster and kind of pump up your players, your star players at times.
Let's move on here, Frank, because I forgot to ask you last week, but hey, the story continues to rage this week. What do you make of what's going on with these pride sweaters in warm-up?
You know what? It's really weird. Like, so I've been in a lot of dressing rooms. I've had a lot of different sweaters that we've had to wear for one reason or another. And you just kind of do it. Like, you just put it on and you go out there. It's I don't know, like, where things have gone here when guys have said, I'll do this, but I won't do that. I just remember all my years of being around, whether it was the military, whether it was Star Wars night or anything. It was just, we're so, as hockey players, we're so just like in this mode where it's like we do things as a team. Like, we do it together, like we travel as a team, we eat as a team, we do everything together. Like, when I played in Toronto, it was, clean shaven. Everyone had to be clean shaven, uniform look with the hair. So it's a touchy subject for sure, but I just feel like we've done such a good job as hockey players to instill this thing where it's like one for all for one. We all kind of, roll together and do the same things. It's a bizarre thing, and it's weird to see. And I happen to know some of the guys that have done it and played with guys, like James Reimer, obviously it's been well noted. Like, I don't know if that changes the way he treats people. He was always such a classy guy and a nice guy. And I would imagine he's still that same way, but there's just something that's like gone on here where guys are like making a stand now. But I just go back to being in the room and having all these different sweaters we have to wear. And it's like, you just go out there and you wear it. And you have to remember that there's a meaning behind it that also means something to a lot of people. So
we've also had pride sweaters for years.
Yeah.
And we haven't had these public objections. And now all of it, why are we going backwards? Like, it's very weird.
Yeah, it's strange. Like, that's the only way I can kind of put it. And even just talking to some former teammates, right? Like, because you also have to remember, like, as much as we're hockey people, like I want to watch hockey, I want to talk about hockey. Sometimes it's okay to just be like, I need to call someone and see like what's actually going on here. Like it's okay to like not know something, right? I feel like so many people are like they have the answer for every single thing that happens. Like it's okay to like ask someone and be like, where did this go wrong? Like where did this go off? Anyways, it's a long-winded way of saying like sometimes we don't have all the answers, but sometimes you need to like ask a question and be like, okay, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Maybe that helps you like make a better decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing I'll say is that the Pride sweater is perhaps a little more politically charged than any other warm-up sweater, jersey that players are going to be asked to wear. And of course, we live in a world of hypersensitivity, and we live in a world that is
perceived to be politically charged. Let's say that. It's perceived. Well, it's really just human decency. But
like I said, it's more politically charged than other jerseys. Now, I agree with Brian Burke that it's not asking you to join a church. It's not asking you to change your values. It's just the symbol of everybody is welcome here. Others take it to mean a different thing. Hey, the thing that Blake and I were fixated on last week and just can't believe is, like, Frankie, the Stahl brothers didn't take warm-up, and then one of them screened a goalie, and then one of them caught a penalty early in that game.
I know.
Like, to me, the hockey player routine is we warm up regardless of what laundry is on our backs prior to the game. Like, that is stunning to me that someone would change their routine and not warm up. Because of the Pride jersey.
And think about the situation the Panthers are in. It's like those are very important games. They're playing playoff hockey where, one mistake can cost you a game. And I actually did that game on radio for the Leafs. And like watching early on, you're like, you try and watch for a few things early on in a game, right? So if it's a 0-0 game, you're like, okay, why is it a 0-0 game? What's going on here? And maybe passes aren't connecting, sloppy play, all that kind of stuff. But when something like that happens, your eyes go right to the players who made the statement, let's say, and didn't want to take warm-up. You're like, all right, what's going on here? And right away, I see one guy gets beat wide with a ton of speed. The other guy has a puck in the neutral zone, 15-foot pass, not on the tape. I'm like, okay, there's two things going on. A, they didn't take warm-up, and B, something going on upstairs here with these guys where that's a decision that's got to be weighing on them while they're trying to play meaningful hockey and hopefully help their team make the playoffs. It's just not a spot you want to put yourself in. It's hard enough to play in that league. Okay. Like there's enough going on around you working against you where why do you want to put yourself in a position where now you're thinking, did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right thing? How do people think? What do my teammates think? And then it's like, oh, also now you didn't take warm-up. Maybe you rode the bike for 15 minutes and you got to go play a game. Like grab a 40-second skate before the national anthem. It's not an advantageous spot.
What have you made of Philip Hronek as a Vancouver Canuck in his early tenure?
Yeah, you know what? It looks like a guy who's coming back from injury and has missed a long period of time. And we've seen spurts where he's moving the puck well. And I think there's a good command to his game when he moves the puck. Like I feel like he knows what he wants to do and why he wants to do it, which I can appreciate. And it's great that he's playing on a team that's playing really good hockey right now because you kind of slide in and you can see things are moving in the right direction. Like watching the team play right now, there's a lot more urgency as far as making sure guys are on the right side of the puck, making sure they're helping their teammates out. And so for Hronek to come into that situation, it obviously helps him kind of get his feet wet. I saw he was playing the left side with Tyler Myers for a bit, which was
weird.
Very interesting because we don't see a lot of righties playing the left side. We see lefties playing the right side. And that's one of those things where I'm like, okay, he sat out quite a bit. He's been hurt, and you're going to put him on the left. But I thought he did a pretty good job with it. Like it's a different look. It's something that you need a little more time as far as getting up to speed with, but he did a really good job. And, even like looking back, watching the St. Louis game, there's a number of times where he's on the ice with Quinn Hughes. And, I know they got the one goal scored against where it's Justin Falk and the puck's kind of bobbling around in the defensive zone. But He's exactly what that team needs, is a defenseman who can move the puck, who has a little bit of, I don't want to say snarl, but like he has a little extra to his game, which I like.
Did you ever play the left side?
I did a little bit, actually, in Utica. We had like a surplus of right-handed D because we had Clendenning and Sanguinetti and Viega and myself. We were all playing in the lineup together. And I don't know why. I always wanted to be like the volunteer to go play the left. I don't know. I have no.
Make life more difficult on yourself.
You're a mensch, Frankie. You did nothing for your development, but you're still a mensch.
Let's just go make things more difficult. So there's some advantages too. Like offensively, if you get the puck on the blue line on your forehand, you take one step, your stick's on the inside. It's great. Speaking of that, by the way. And I don't know if we're going to get into Quinn Hughes, but I just got to make one comment on something he did in the St. Louis game, which I thought was brilliant. So it's the Brock Besser goal. Quinn Hughes gets the puck at the point. And every time you get that puck, especially in the situation he was in, you're taught to get to the middle of the ice as quick as humanly possible. But in that spot where he was, if he did that, if he just got it and went right away, the St. Louis player had like a good track to him and was going to cut him off. So what he did was he stopped, he stood there, he baited the St. Louis forward to like come towards him so he could give him like a little shimmy shake, and then he beat the guy to the middle. Like I just thought it was so brilliant, the fact that he recognized that. He's like, and he has the confidence to be like, wait, I'm going to wait till you get within a stick length of me. Now I'm going to leave you in the dust. And then it's a nice shot, and Besser tipped it in.
His 20-meter speed is good, right? He's not a burner. Like I think Cale Makar beats him in a straight-ahead race, but his quickness just in the short spurts, and of course his edge work is sublime.
Yeah, it's really important actually for defensemen. So we used to do these things. I don't know. I would imagine they still do it in Vancouver. A number of teams do it. Force plate testing. So it's this blue little platform, and you just jump. Like you jump as high and hard as you possibly can. And that generates like all these different data points, okay? And so for forwards, there's 3 gears: gear 1, gear 2, gear 3. For forwards, you wanted a certain profile because you wanted to be able to have that open ice speed, and acceleration. For defensemen, the profile was a little different. They wanted defensemen to have their gear 1 to be very, very high. So like you're talking about, those first 3, 4, 20 meters, that needed to be your top end, and then second a little lower, and then third a little lower. Because if you think about it, you need to get out of spaces quickly as a defenseman. If you're trapped in your own zone, it's like you need to move that 10 meters as quick as you possibly can to evade a check. And just like you talked about Hughes at the point, it's like he needs to get from the boards to the middle of the ice as quick as possible. And that's that first gear. So I would imagine if he did force plate testing, that would be what you would see. I was the opposite way. I was built a little more like a forward. So I had to like change my workout routine a little bit more so I could get the force plate testing to have a higher first gear. I was just built a little bit different.
I bet you Paul Coffey wouldn't have been past that modern test either, though. That straightaway speed in big spaces, which Paul Coffey had to worked just fine. Yeah. But nowadays, it's of course so much better. So.
It's problem solving in small spaces.
Yeah. I once had an NFL scout tell me he looks at the 10-yard split as much as the 40-yard dash time because he says guys in our league are never running 40 yards in a straight line, but they're oftentimes asked to, in a short area, accelerate and separate from the opposing team.
And to your point there, that's a good point, because now it's like, okay, you move that 10 meters, whatever it is, guys are lateral now. Like watch Nathan McKinnon skate the puck up the ice. It's not just like, cutting up the ice. This guy's crossovers, he's moving 5 to 6 meters each way as he's carrying the puck up the ice. And that's, he's generating so much speed doing that, but it's also what makes him such a dangerous player to have to defend.
I just want to applaud us for using the metric system as much as we have in this conversation. This has been a truly Canadian conversation. There's been no yards or feet used. I use yards, for God's sake.
I just used 40-yard dash. So.
Did you? Well, no, you were referencing an NFL.
I went back to meters after. But I will say, though, I grew up in the metric system. I don't know if you guys grew up in the imperial system.
No, Blake was on the golf course yesterday. It was about 126 meters from the middle of the green, and he pulled 7 iron.
I played a round of golf. I played a round of golf in Sweden when I got out there, and everything was in meters, and I had no idea what I was hitting.
Lastly, Frankie, the aforementioned Mr. Hughes is at 65 assists. Him, Carlson, and Roman Josi last year have all reached 65 assists. What do you think's going on here with these defensemen racking up huge assist totals in the last couple of years?
You know what? So Quinn Hughes is just so involved in the game. Like he's so good at finding ways to get up in the rush. He's obviously gets a ton of opportunity because he's on the power play, but opportunity is one thing. It's what you do with it. And they're just, you know what? He's so elusive, and I feel like those guys like Carlson, Josi, and Hughes, they've just found ways to manipulate players to kind of use their sticks against them, and even joining the rush, like getting involved in the offensive zone. That's probably the one biggest area for me. Like if you go back a few years, even when I was in the league, it's like coaches would tell defensemen, just stay on the blue line. You know, you move laterally on the blue line. Now there's so many areas where you can get involved offensively, and it's kind of welcomed because you're floating in and out of coverage. You have wingers that have to shoulder check. They're not really used to doing that. And so, you know, the more higher skilled players, the guys that are able to execute at high levels, the more they get involved, the more they're using the players that aren't necessarily as defensively aware, and they're kind of using it to their advantage.
Marvelous stuff, my friend. You're a natural at this. We hope to see you in a broadcast booth soon, whether it's here or elsewhere, but we enjoy catching up with you each and every Thursday. Thanks, Frankie.
Thanks, Frank.